Now, while negotiations to end the war gather pace, Ukrainians are still being killed on a daily basis. Many still oppose giving in to Russia's demands. Our special correspondent, Maria Muller, who we just heard from, and her team met with Kyiv residents who survived a missile strike.
7 a.m. We get a call from emergency services. A missile hit an apartment building in Kyiv's Darnitsky district. Fire crews are fighting the flames, tearing through homes people were sleeping in just minutes ago. About 100 meters away on this street, a man was walking past when the missile, intercepted by Ukrainian air defenses, struck. He was killed instantly. This is where the long-range cruise missile, as we were told, hit the ground. You can still see some parts smoking there. And this is where it bounced off and hit the apartment building in the back, where it caused fire in several apartments. And this is what's left of it. They're taking it away for further inspection. Ilya was asleep in his apartment when the explosion shattered his window.
I saw flames right in front of me, flying fragments. Blood immediately ran down my face.
He was lucky, just a minor injury. Jana tells us she and her mother live on the 9th floor and barely made it out in time.
My mother is 75 years old and could barely hold on. She was already screaming for help. She started to choke and collapse. If they had have taken another minute or two, that would have been it. We would have suffocated.
Like others here, she's worried about a neighbor she hasn't been able to find.
He was on the 7th floor, screaming. I don't know if he was rescued. The fire was literally creeping up on him. It's very scary.
We're heading up to see for ourselves, straight into the smoke that burns our lungs. Behind us is the apartment. It's still a lot of smoke, so it's really hard to breathe. This was the living room, the kitchen. Everything is completely destroyed. They extinguished the fire just a few minutes ago.
It's disgusting. I'm already an old person, and I want to spend my remaining years in retirement peacefully.
The next-door neighbor, Mikola, has come to check his home. It too is filled with smoke, but at least it isn't damaged.
There is no light. They turned it off.
Do you feel safe here now?
No. I'll wait until tomorrow morning. Usually the shelling starts between 3 and 5 a.m. They deprived me of my joy. Everything feels absolutely meaningless.
He's been following the news from far-off places where others make decisions about his life.
We were unlucky with Trump. My opinion of America has worsened in general. It's so bad. People here won't surrender, because to whom and where? They will shoot everyone anyway.
Back outside, Victoria still can't grasp what happened. Even though she sees this on the news every day, she says it's hard to believe it struck her own home this time.
There's no time for crying. I asked myself, what needs to be done? You need to run, save yourself, save the cat. Honestly, because of the shock, I don't feel anything right now.
And even though the killing and destruction has entered its 4th year, giving up is simply not an option for people here.
I believe we must negotiate until all of Ukraine's conditions are met, so that all the lives that were lost in this war are not in vain. Conditions shouldn't be dictated by Russia.
This reflects the sentiment among many Ukrainians. If they surrender now, all those sacrifices would have been for nothing.
Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelenskyy has met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Paris to shore up European support. Macron's office has said the leaders will discuss what it called the conditions of a just and durable peace. Meanwhile, European Union defence ministers have gathered in Brussels to discuss military support for Kyiv. Also on the agenda is European defence readiness in the face of increasing airspace violations and drone sightings.
Today we meet with the defence ministers of the European Union, and we have
All right, let's bring in our DW correspondents, Terry Schultz in Brussels and Lisa Louis in Paris. Terry, I'll start with you. Talks happening in the United States. Europeans under pressure again to find a way to be relevant in the peace process, it seems. How will the EU try and position itself?
That's right, Anthony. Europeans have once again found themselves completely sidelined in discussions about the future of Ukraine when it comes to negotiating with Russia. Those talks, as you mentioned, in the United States. Now U.S. envoys going to Moscow. So while the agenda here today is officially about the Europeans discussing their support for Ukraine and their own preparedness for potential Russian aggression in the future, of course, here as ministers arrived, so many of their questions were about these negotiations with Russia and with Ukraine, asking whether the Europeans felt that the Americans were taking their concerns into account. I asked the Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans directly when he said that they were coordinating with the Americans, whether he felt that European concerns were being taken seriously by the United States. And he simply said, all I can say is that we're coordinating. So I don't think Europeans feel that they do have a lot of influence on this process. And that, of course, is frustrating.
Lisa, to you in Paris, this is Zelensky's second visit within 2 weeks with the aim to move negotiations forward. Remind us, what role does France play here?
Well, Emmanuel Macron has been at the forefront of a European show of support, and despite although I agree with Terry that the leverage that Europe has is somehow limited, still the Europeans are trying to show that they stand united with Ukraine that has long since turned into Europe's front line in this war, especially as a number of European countries have been facing so-called hybrid attacks, airspace violations, incidents with drones, but also cyber attacks over the past few months and years. And in reaction to that, a number of countries have also been gearing up on their military service, their defense industry. A dozen European countries now have some form of military service in place. France last week reinstalled a so-called voluntary military service aimed at gearing up its defense force and its military reserve by up to tens of thousands of people over the coming years.
You raised the spectre of France having a bit of a limited leverage here, Lisa. France, though, wants a central role in delivering security guarantees to Ukraine. How do they propose to do that?
Well, absolutely. They're still trying to have some influence in the talks that are largely happening between the US and Moscow, and obviously also between Ukraine. We understand that the plan that is now on the table has at least somehow been watered down, in the sense that initially it said that there should be no NATO troops stationed ever in Ukraine. And now it seems to be saying that there should be no Western troops permanently stationed in Ukraine. Meanwhile, as you said, France has been part of the so-called coalition of the willing that has come up with a plan to send about tens of thousands of soldiers to Ukraine that would be stationed there, not on the front line, but in the country, somehow some form of peace troops in the long run. Although obviously, look, lots of countries are facing money problems, including France, that is now trying to get some kind of budget on the way for the next year, but is still falling short of finding tens of billions of euros that it needs to find to get that budget actually voted through Parliament.
Terry, I want to finish with you, and another big topic of these talks will be the ongoing debate about whether more than 140 billion euros in frozen Russian assets can be used to guarantee a loan to Ukraine. Has there been any movement on that?
Not in the direction that most of the European Union countries would like to see. Belgium is still digging in its heels, saying that because most of these assets are held here in Belgium, that it does not feel that it legally can allow that money to be used to guarantee a loan for Ukraine. Belgium also worries that if Russia were to come back and demand those frozen assets back, that it would all be on Belgium's head. Now, this morning, Kaja Kallas, the EU's foreign policy chief, said that all countries have agreed to help shoulder that responsibility, to take a portion of the financial responsibility in case Russia did ask for that money back, but that hasn't seemed to budge Belgium yet. Now, as Lisa was discussing, this is money that is very much needed by the Europeans to help their support for Ukraine. Ukraine due to run out of money in February without a huge influx, and the United States, of course, having pulled back virtually all of its financial support for Ukraine. This is really essential for the Europeans to find a way to help finance Ukraine into the future, and all of the countries except Belgium at the moment want to do it with these immobilized assets. But today we're not going to see any decision on that. In fact, the Belgian defense minister isn't even present at this meeting today. They have promised they will come up with a solution by the December European Council, which is in just a little over 2 weeks' time from now.
DW correspondents Terry Schultz in Brussels and Lisa Louie in Paris. Thank you both.